Hello, today we will continue chapter 2nd of microeconomics. Our topic for the day is central problems of an economy. Every country faces three central problems. The first is what to produce, the second problem is how to produce, and the third problem is for whom to produce. All countries faces these problems essentially due to scarcity of resources. Let us study these problems one by one. The first problem is what to produce, and of course, in what quantities. That is, how much to produce. This is a problematic situation because no country can produce what all it wants to produce. Countries needs to make choice. Some broad categories of choice can be between consumer goods and capital goods, wartime goods and peacetime goods. There can be choice between production of necessities and luxury goods. Similarly, there can be many other choices. But this essentially happens due to the fact that if a country decides to produce more of one type of good, it needs to give up on some other type of good. Once a country has decided about what goods to be produced, then it must decide about in what quantities, that is, how much to produce. This again is mainly dependent on the quantum of resources that it had and the magnitude of its population. The second problem in front of any country is how to produce. This problem is essentially about choice of technique for production of goods and services. This involves primarily choice between labor intensive and capital intensive technology. Labor intensive technology means more labor and less machines, while capital intensive technology means more machine and less labor. But this choice involves even a deeper choice, that is, choice between employment and efficiency. If labor intensive technology is used, then the country is choosing employment and sacrificing efficiency. But on the other hand, if capital intensive technology is used by a country for production of goods and services, it means that it is going to sacrifice employment in favor of efficiency. The third problem is for whom to produce. This problem is also called the problem of distribution of goods and services. It again involves choice. If a country decides to produce goods and services in favor of the upper class of the society, it is sacrificing social justice. On the other hand, if it decides to produce only for poor, then it is sacrificing growth, as the country will only focus on producing necessary goods for mass consumption purposes. Our next topic for today is how these central problems are solved in various types of economies. Let us first take market economy or free economy. As we already know, in this type of economy, the government role is minimized while private sector dominates. Therefore, the problem of what to produce is decided by the private sector on the basis of demand and supply. Private producers will produce those goods that fetch them high profits. Social welfare is overlooked. Second problem of how to produce will be decided on the basis of cost minimization. That is, that technology will be employed which is relatively cheap in production of commodities. For whom to produce? This problem will be decided by the private sector again on the basis of profit, that is, affordability of the consumers. In a centrally planned economy, the government dominates. Therefore, the problem of what to produce will be decided on the basis of social welfare. The government will decide to produce those goods and services that maximizes social welfare. The problem of how to produce will be decided again on the basis of social welfare. It means that all poor people will be given preference. That technology will be employed which maximizes social welfare when it comes to how to produce. For whom to produce, there will be production for commodities for one and all. That is, nobody will be excluded in this type of economy. In mixed economy, what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce will be collectively decided by the private sector and the government. It implies that every decision will be taken jointly by both the sectors. Private sector will decide on the basis of profit, while government will decide on the basis of social welfare. Every economic activity will be collectively decided by both the sectors. Thank you for the day.